And so one of the things that we were going to be doing today is a tribute to Irwin Zucker. And we're just gonna let people basically just come in here on this Skype call, and I'm gonna basically just kind of interview and get everybody's thoughts. And as Irwin used to say, our first victim is Charlie DeMocus. So Charlie, you worked with Irwin on the PR side, correct?
Yes. I'm not sure if I'm legitimately should be the first one to talk, but I did start.
Well, you know what's funny? You know what's funny about this is I think I've got Olympia LaPointe joining us. Olympia, can you hear us? Can you see us? Are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you loud and clear. I cannot see you yet, but believe me, when you pop up on the screen, I know you'll be there. But
she's popped up on my screen.
I'll tell you, she is fantastic. I love Olympia. She is the one that kind of got this all. Let's see, we'll merge calls here. I don't know what the hell's going on here, but Olympia, we kind of you were the one. I mentioned this when I did my little tribute to Irwin at the top of the show. You're the one that was the bearer of bad news, essentially. I don't even know if Olympia's with us. Olympia, can you hear me? Are you there?
Yes,
I don't see her now.
Can you see me?
I cannot see you, but I've got your audio, so that's really all that matters. So you were sort of the bearer of bad news. How did you get wind of Irwin's passing?
Oh my God!
Because you were like the first one that. Because I even after I talked to you, I'm like, or I think while I was even talking to you, I sent Charles an email, and I'm like, is this true? Because I was in shock.
Well, I was in shock too. I am Olympia LaPointe, and Irwin Zucker was a phenomenal publicist in Hollywood for the last over the last how long was he? How many decades was he a publicist?
How was it? Yeah, because Charlie, you worked with him.
6 decades.
6 decades.
So
God bless him. Good God.
Yes, phenomenal publicist. And I received the news from an email, and I remember going into shock earlier that morning because of all the Supreme Court news, and then I remember going to further shock because that afternoon I received an email from from a person that also knew Irwin Zucker that said that he had passed away that afternoon. So he just passed away this last Friday. And I am honored because I would not be an author had he not taken me under his wing and show me the business of promoting your products and your work.
Yes.
And he was an expert for the last 6 decades in that. And I was fortunate for the last 10 years. He showed me how to be a best-selling author, to promote my information, and he was the founder of the Book Publicists Club of Southern California, and that's where I became a member and met amazing people. And I am honored because his legacy, Irwin Zucker's legacy, will last for decades, and I am honored to be a person in which he has mentored.
So Olympia, share the story. I love this story. And Charles, you're going to love this too, being the fact that you worked with Irwin in the PR part. Olympia, tell me, you shared this with me. We had such a fun laugh the other day. We were talking about all this. Tell me the phone story of you going to Irwin's house and using his phone to do an interview.
Okay. Landlines is something that landlines, like the old school telephone, the telephone that is plugged into your wall, is called a landline. A lot of people of my generation do not know what landlines are, and I'm in my 40s. But the landline is necessary for many different radio shows. And
Yes.
Irwin Zucker booked me on a radio show, and he says, "You need a landline. You need a landline." And I remember thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I don't have a landline. I have a cell phone. What am I going to do? And he says, can you still hear me there?
Yep, I've still got you.
Okay,
We've still got you, my friend. You're
Great.
loud and clear.
Okay, great. So what happened was that he said, you need a landline to be on this show. This is a big show, big national show. You need to be on the landline. And I'm like, landline? What am I going to do? He goes like, I'm going to have you use my landline. And so I drove down to Beverly Hills. He had a beautiful home on Crescent Drive, I think it was, in Beverly Hills. And I drove over to his house, and he ushered me up to his office area, the room right next to his office. He says, I want you to get on this phone, and I want you to knock him dead. I want you to be so clear, so phenomenal, that when they hear you, that when they hear you, they will not want to turn away. They'll be glued to your voice. And so I said, okay. And for the next hour, I was on the national radio show, and I remember looking out of the window. He had a beautiful 2-story home. And I remember looking out the window, and it was a 2-story home that was old Hollywood. It had the paint of just the magnificent old Hollywood that had the architecture and structure. And I remember looking out the window to the pool area, and I remember thinking to myself, I am so fortunate that I have a publicist that will make sure that I am heard at any seat. And that was the big epiphany as I looked out the window and was sharing my personal story on this national radio show. And it was that realization that there's people supporting me, like the late Irwin Zucker, who was phenomenal at what he did. And I remember leaving that interview feeling 100% like I knocked him dead. Irwin Zucker said, you had an amazing story. I was listening to you all the time. And that's something what Irwin Zucker did. He always listened to your entire show. He was able to point out everything in what you said that was going to grab the listener's attention, and said, keep doing that. Keep doing that. He was one of the best promoters I have ever encountered. And it was Irwin Zucker's landline that allowed me to be able on the national show. And that type of help, that type of mentoring, that type of making sure that I always had my voice heard was a phenomenal experience that I will always remember for the rest of my life.
Now, Charles, you worked with Irwin on the PR side. You were kind of...
That's correct.
Tell me and Olympia and the audience here a little bit about how Irwin impacted you on that side, and then when you became an author and everything.
Well, I was in high school when I first met Irwin, and I started working for him, and I don't quite remember if it was in my junior year or final year, but I think it was in my junior year. I remember I already had my driver's license, and at that time you could get it earlier if you took a special driver training program. I don't know
Driver's
if you still can. And that was essential, I think, to get hired. Because I had to work in the office, and I met Irwin. He was very nice. And also, I think the Promotion in Motion moniker is very apt for Irwin because he never stood still. He was always moving in one way or another, either with his voice, his torso, his body, his hands. I mean, he was always in motion. And he was, the last time I saw him, which was I don't know, just some weeks ago, so the whole thing is very sad because he was still kind of full of life. And I received a call, in fact, from him maybe a day or two before he passed away. So it's hard to imagine that he cannot make those calls anymore. And I'll get to that later. But when I first started working for him, he had this office until not that long ago, a very nice office right near the high school I went to, which was Hollywood High School, and it was on Sunset Boulevard. And, I kind of did a lot of mundane things in the office, but one of the things I got to do was also to travel around and pick up people who were clients or authors, or at that time, Irwin also did a lot of music work. So there were also musical acts and performers one of the places I would get to take them was a place which is no longer there called Pacific Ocean Park. It was like a theme park right over Santa Monica Bay. Right now there's a big Ferris wheel, which there was a Ferris wheel there then too, but it wasn't quite as big. And now the park with its little amphitheater where performers performed, including Irwin's clients, aren't able to do that anymore. So that's how I met him, and it was just the greatest experience where I not only learned about book publishing, but also about his clients, who were, some of them were well-known authors, as well as some well-known celebrities or entertainers, mostly performers. So that was my introduction to Irwin, and it was great. And during that time, one of the things I did was, which I felt privileged to do, he did get sick during that time, and I took him to the hospital once, which was out in Encino, where he was in there for a couple of days, and I don't remember what it was for. But so I kind of got to know him in different situations. And over the years, I would keep in touch with him because of the Book Publicists Organization. When I could, I would go to their events, which, I mean, it's great that he kept them going on, the Zoom facilities, but they were perhaps a little greater live, because they were at a place called Sportsman's Lodge in North Hollywood. It was like a little north of where his office was at. And each time you would have a pretty wonderful dinner for a modest nominal sum. I mean, I was always amazed that they kept it pretty reasonable so that even I could afford it. And then each time there would be one or two people talking about a specific subject relating to books and publicity. So that's how I got to know.
So Charles, tell me in Olympia here a little bit about how Irwin helped you on to be your PR guy, because the story of Olympia going out and using Irwin's landline is phenomenal. What do you have that's sort of an Irwin story like that?
Well, I think I can come up with a few, because when I had my first fiction book published not that long ago, I had it accepted for publication by a small publisher in 2019, and then they were set to publish it in 2020. Of course, who would I let know? Guess what, Irwin? Guess what? I'm going to have a book come out too. So he was wildly excited about it and was more than eager to help me promote it. And so I would say one of the nicest things he did was put me in touch with you, because I really enjoyed my interviews with you, and he was very supportive of them. And I usually try to follow his advice with what the format would be. And I found out even this last one, which we did not that long ago, maybe 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, something.
I guess he was on earlier and then I was on later. He listened into mine, and he kind of then gave me a critique, and overall it was pretty positive and everything. And he also thanked me for the kind of the discussions of the Book Publicists Organization that I had mentioned, because that was the other thing that he asked me to do, which I was happy to do, which was to be on one of the panels that the book publicists would normally have. And so I happened to be on this very last one, which was not that long ago. It was like 2-3 weeks ago. And that's what he called me about later. He called me basically to critique the whole panel and to give me a feedback on it. So as I say, that was like maybe 2 days before he passed away, 3 days at most. And so that will stay with me forever. I mean, Irwin was so enthusiastic, so helpful. And yes, he had a beautiful house, and he lived a wonderful life and had a wonderful family. When I first knew him, he actually, I think, worked with his brother quite a bit, and his brother, I think, I know he told me he passed away quite a while ago, and I think that was hard for him to deal with, that he was kind of on his own during the last years. So that's kind of my relationship with him, but he was kind of a partially my friend, partially my mentor, partially my supporter, and partially also an awesome role model for what being an ethical book person in this very crazy business should be about.
So, Olympia, what are you planning on doing? I know that we had talked about you were still going to stay involved with the book publicists and everything. Tell us about this.
The Book Publicists of Southern California is a great organization with authors and publicists come to find out about the mechanics of promotion, book promotion specifically, because it's a different ball game when you're dealing with books. And if you're dealing with any type of memoirs, any type of personal stories, like Irwin Zucker was a specialty expert in, you have to know how to market your information in a way that's actually very successful. And in this Book Publicist Club, he created the Irwin Award. And I have it right here. I'm not quite sure if you can see it or if the video is on, but it's the Irwin Award. It was the industry recognition of writers in the news. And it was a great award. And I received this award for the Answers Unleashed and Mathophobia book series. And the organization I would like to see continue in a great, powerful way. I am still a member. Plus, what I'm deciding to do is create a once-a-month Zoom type of gathering for the people in the club to just create this opportunity of networking with one another, to have conversations, to find out what's working, what's not working, exchange contacts, so we can keep the Irwin Zucker legacy moving. And if you know anything about his background, he had the promotion in motion publicity, and that was his motto. He was always moving. Promotion, it's in motion, it never stops, it always keeps going. And he was in his 90s keeping on going, and he was a person who really believed on moving forward no matter what type of experiences that you encountered. And he went through really tough experiences towards the last part of his life. His wife passed away from, I believe it was dementia or Alzheimer's, and it was a very huge deal for him to properly take care of his wife and make sure that she had the right medical treatment and the right facility after a while. And he did his best to be able to help her. And I remember talking with him when she passed, and it was like he was so happy that she was at rest, but at the same time, of course, it was his wife passed away. And then his daughter, he had two twin daughters, and his one of his twin daughters passed away. And that was really tough on him. And throughout all of that adversity, he kept moving, he kept going. He was living up into his motto is promotion and motion. You keep moving, you keep going no matter what you encounter. And I really would like that the book publicists of the Southern California members, as well as new authors, would come together in the Irwin Zucker memorial meetings. And it is a Zoom meetings that are going to be held once a month, and just email me at olympia@olympialapointe.com to get information about the meetings. It is a way for authors to come together and recognize that you always keep moving. No matter what happens, you always keep moving forward. You always sell your story. And the way you sell it is you tell it. You tell it, whether it be on TV, whether it be in books, whether it be in news articles, whether it be in a radio. You tell your story. And that's what he always says. You have a story to tell. You always had to tell your story. And it was amazing for me to find out about his celebrity clientele base that he had before. Zsa Zsa Gabor, you were telling me.
Yes, he had. Charles, tell us about Charles. Tell us about some of the different people that you worked with.
Well, I don't know if it's fair to say that I worked with them. I mean, I may have chauffeured them around, or I may have dropped them off at POP and went and sat down and listened to them. But at that time, this was, I guess, the early 60s. Some of the people who come to mind were maybe not as big stars as they later became, like Anne Margaret is one who comes to mind. When I guess she started out as a singing star, and not even a big star, but then she became a bigger singing star and then started acting. So she was one. Other people were people like Bobby D. Bobby D was big. And who I thought was a very nice, he was very nice, very straightforward. One of my favorites, well, I think I took them around, I had dinner with them once or twice. They were from Idaho, and they were very clever at their kind of moniker, Paul Revere and the Raiders. They were for a while, they were a popular rock group, and they always dressed up like Paul Revere and, kind of 17th century Raiders. And so that was kind of their gimmick. But those were some of the ones I recall from that era. And Pacific Ocean Park was great because these concerts were usually in the afternoon. And that meant that the audience was mostly family oriented. Yes. It wasn't, Saturday night crazy time. It was very much fun. And usually they were telecasts. So Irwin was really great at getting his clients on those kind of shows at the time.
So Olympia, talk to us about some of the different opportunities that Irwin was able to connect you with.
Oh, gosh. How many days do we have? Oh, gosh. First off, Irwin Zucker connected me to the business side of book publishing. Now, people do not know book publishing is a hardcore business. You have to know your stuff. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I chose to create my own book publishing business because Irwin Zucker guided me to the great industry experts that allowed me to see I had the intelligence and the business acumen to be able to do it on my own. So what he was able to do is connect me with one, book editors. That was number one. Number two, he connected me with graphic designers. Number three, he connected me with printing presses across Southern California. Wow. The fourth thing that he did is he connected me with publicists so I could know the ins and outs of publicity. Because he was a publicist, but then he also knew that there were other publicists also that had different connections than he had. And he was brilliant because he would point me to interview the other publicists so I would know what they had to offer. And he said, Olympia, you think like a publicist, you can do this yourself. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, what is it that you do? I remember just sitting down. I would just sit down and just ask Irwin, well, what do you do when you reach out and they say this? Or what do you do when they reach out and they say this? And he taught me how to pitch myself. And it's the most amazing thing because he not only helped me get on different shows, like national radio shows, he also helped me learn to pitch myself, where I was able to get on CBS News, regularly speaking about the SpaceX launches with Elon Musk. He helped me learn how to pitch myself, where I got on Cheddar News and spoke about Blue Origin launches. And then, of course, my book had to be mentioned as the expert that was, and if people don't know, I'm a rocket scientist and who has a book publishing company. So I had the opportunity to promote my Answers Unleashed book series on CBS News and Cheddar News. And then he was really instrumental because I've gotten on a number of shows. And I've also worked with other publicists as well. So I'm very fortunate, and I have other I've gained agents over the years. Babette Perry at Innovative Artists is my agent for TV hosting and news programs, so I'm very honored with that. And I have a publicist team that is great, Icon PR, led by Heather Weiss, and she is just an amazing publicist as well. And I learned the tricks of the trade through Irwin Zucker. And it was amazing because he taught me the business, the entertainment business of book publishing. And book publishing isn't just for book audiences. It's used on television. For example, a lot of people don't know that one of his clients was the author of The Love Boat. The Love Boat book was actually
Yes.
translated into a TV series. And so the book publishing world was the world in which Irwin Zucker introduced me to. And if you can own the content of a book, then you own the royalties of a TV show when it deals with the contents of the book. And that was the most amazing part that I saw. And that business acumen, that communication technique, that ability to pitch in such a profound, quick, executive way allowed not only for me to be on national shows, but for me to be eventually seen by 26 million people on a span of different networks.
Yes.
And I'm very thankful for that.
So Charles, you, Irwin tasked you on several occasions, fairly recently, a deal that we had you on the show to talk about. He had you hosting like a Zoom call.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about this and everything.
Yeah, that was the one I guess he called me about. He had asked me to discuss this evening. It was a book publicist meeting, and then because I also have a background in motion pictures, I have directed several, actually more than several, quite a few, but one or two features, and also many shorter films, and produced some which other people have directed, including my wife, who directed one coming-of-age feature, which is on Prime Video, and another kind of a documentary film that we shot in the Soviet Union at that time when it crumbled and became, unfortunately, the Russia that became today's Russia. But it was an incredible experience. So I've had that kind of experience with different motion picture formats. And he asked about that, since I also worked in acquisitions for a couple of cable companies, and the acquisitions were for either motion pictures or series. That this was Fox Family Channel and later ABC channel. So I kind of saw both sides of the aisle, so to speak. Yeah. And so that's kind of what he asked me to talk about to people in the audience, mostly in the book end of the audience, who were interested in selling their project for media company's acquisition. So that was the subject a couple of weeks ago.
So Olympia, what exactly can we all do moving forward here to kind of honor Irwin and just kind of keep what he's built here alive? What do you guys think we can do here? Start with Olympia.
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. I think remember everything. Number one is remember everything he shared. He shared specific information with each one of us, and he was very thoughtful in being able to pick out each one of our talents. He was very observant. He told us what worked, what didn't work, but specifically emphasized what worked and told you to keep doing it. One
Yes.
of the individuals that was a part of the book publicist, when I was talking with her on Friday, she said he was always encouraging of her. And he said some people wouldn't like it, but her job is to get out there and keep doing it because that's who she is. And she has been in radio for 26 years now. So that is a feat. For her. For me, he told me that I was always positive, even though there's the most horrible situations. I always had a way of being able to have people think about things differently and see it in a new light where they can understand the positive in the situation. He's like, that's a gift. Not many people on the face of the earth have that ability. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. And he had the ability to share with us critical information specific to us. So if you had the opportunity to talk to Irwin Zucker, remember what he's told you, and you will be able to remember all the different things. I bet you'll be able to remember all the different things, and it will creep up in your memory when you definitely need it. The second thing I would recommend is to really keep the Irwin Awards going. The Irwin Book Awards was a phenomenal award system that awarded authors with having breakthrough stories and inspirational programs. I truly believe that if we can keep the Irwin Awards going for not only for the next couple of years, but next couple of centuries, I truly believe it's going to be one of the largest industry recognized events within the book publishing world and authors. And I truly believe that can be a momentum created from his legacy on that, because authors are amazing people who have brilliant stories to share. Yeah. And the third recommendation is to really put into practice what we have learned. Put into practice and network with other people who are doing the same. We each have learned a great deal. For me, it was the last 10 years. Other people have been working with him for longer. Put into practice. Now it's a test. We are in a world where it's unfortunately fallen. It's very dark in different areas, and each one of us bring a gift to this world. And it's about time we really start honing in on what it is that we do and bring these gifts to this planet in such a profound business-oriented way that we are able to change the landscape and bring more light into the world through what it is that we offer. And I truly believe that Irwin Zucker was a master at helping us hone in on our niche to get the brightness that we offer to this world professionally and do it. So those are my 3 tips.
Awesome. Charles, what do you think, my friend?
I think those are excellent points, and I think doing it hopefully through his organization will continue, that the Irwin Awards will continue through the Southern California Book Publicists Association, and I'm certainly planning on being a member on an ongoing basis. And I think your idea, Olympia, of having more frequent meetings, because the book publicists really would have maybe one meeting every 4 or 5 months or something like that. So having more frequent meetings is a great idea. One thing that Irwin had, which I can't say I can do, but I'm certainly trying to learn from his inspiration, and what he taught me is he just had a way of putting things that sounded great. And he could make me sound good. Whereas I feel like, well, gee whiz, I don't know what to say. I can't really overstate things. I want to, not hype up too much. And he had the perfect balance of inspiration, accuracy, charm, but really enthusiasm. So, and that's, I think, a great combination that hopefully I'll get a little better at. And I'll take some of his advice to heart as much as I can. In terms of other people, I do feel, at least personally, I learned more about the people in the Publicists Association during this kind of really bad time, the pandemic time, because, you could kind of see people face up, kind of one-to-one at the meetings, whereas when we were at the Sportsman's Lodge, it was more of Irwin, the guest, and then the rest of us. So in some ways, I think I've learned something from seeing the same people and participating with them over the Zoom participation rather than the in-person participation. But I think we should keep his inspiration alive as a long-term legacy for everyone's benefit and also the book industry's benefit, because I think the thing I've been really impressed with in the last meetings is there's so many varied, wonderful people in the Book Publicists Association, each of whom has a very clear vision of what they're trying to impart and help the world with. And boy, is that a worthy objective. And I know Irwin had that as a goal for all his life. And I think it's up to us to keep that going.
So I guess as we wrap up here with everybody, I want to start with Olympia. Olympia, give us your final thoughts on everything and how we can reach out to you and everything else.
Great. If you're interested, reach out to me through my website, olympialapointe.com, OLYMPIA, LEPOINT.com. Find me there. Send me a direct message through my website, through the Contact Us page, and just tell me that you'd like to be a part of the Irwin Zucker memorial meetings. And I really plan to support the Book Publicists Club, and then have people be on an opportunity to connect with one another in a fashion of different meetings online, to connect people across Southern California in additional ways. And I'm also interested in meeting some of the people that Irwin Zucker worked with, because I have my own platform, AnswersUnleashed.com, and I have my radio show and podcast, and I'm definitely interested in highlighting some of the authors in which Irwin Zucker promoted and really cared for over the last 60 years. And I'm excited about that. So find me on olympialapointe.com and send me a message under the Contact Us, and send me a message and check out AnswersUnleashed.com podcast, where I have different guests on who are authors that talk about their personal work.
So Charles, give us kind of your wrap up here on today, and then how people can get in touch with you and some of the different projects you've got coming up.
Yeah, James, thank you. I really just think the world of Irwin, and I think we all are better off because he was around.
Yes.
And he was around and kept being around for all of us. And age was never an issue with him, which I really see as a model for myself, since I'm not exactly 25 years old or 45 years old. And I think it's up to us to keep our vision alive and keep it going no matter where we're at. And he certainly did that for his entire life. And I think that's a blessing, that it can be an incredible award for each of us that keeps us going. So in terms of contacting me, I'm not quite as organized as Olympia is, but people are certainly I do have a website, which is my name, charlesdomokosauthor.com, but I know that's a little difficult. CharlesDomokos author.com.
Fantastic.
So people are welcome to check that out. They're welcome to email me. That may be the easiest thing, especially as relates to Irwin. I actually contacted one of the organizations who came to speak at the last meeting, 2 meetings ago, is an actual book fair that Irwin inspired. And it's run by a couple of folks from the Book Publicists organization who started this kind of virtual book fair, because the last couple of years, the LA Times book fair, which is kind of the big in-town book fair, hasn't been going. And so they started a virtual version. And so I'm going to let them know about this. I had told them what happened, and so I'm going to let them know and ask them to come participate as well. So my email, if anybody would like, is they're either my name, Charles Domokos at AOL.com, or pompix at AOL, POMPIX. And that refers to the other website we have for our films, pompixweb.com. So again, it's either pompix at AOL.com for emails, or Charles Domokos, CHARLES DOMOKOS at AOL.com.
Well, Charles, Olympia, this has been fun. I've really enjoyed catching up with you guys, and I definitely will stay in touch. And thank you guys for coming on and chatting with us today about Irwin, and I definitely will be in touch. Thank you, guys.
And thank you. Well, also to Olympia, but James, thank you very much. First of all, for alerting us, and also for having this little memorial, which I'm sure will, inspire some people. Certainly keeps Irwin's memory alive in ourselves, and I'm sure in other folks as well who listen to your show. So really, thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. You guys have a blessed day and week, and Olympia, Charles, I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. There they go. That is Olympia LaPointe. That is Charles Domokos. And that is that for our special presentation here of the life of Irwin Zucker. And we're going to miss you, Irwin. We definitely are going to miss you, brother. But I know that everybody's gonna keep on keeping on, as they say. And that is that. Thanks for joining us. We will see you next time here on the World Famous.